Alright, it's time for an update and forecast on the Mosquito Fire. Looks like it's now up to 48,509 acres and it's at 10% containment. If you want to see where some of that growth was recently, we can look at the Google Earth imagery. Just to kind of orient ourselves, here's Forest Hill on the western part of this fire. We've got Georgetown over here to the southwest. And then if we zoom out, you can see Lake Tahoe about 30 miles to the east. Now, if we look at the fire perimeter and we turn off the most recent flight data that we have, one thing I'll say about this flight data is it's not exactly completely accurate because we did have a lot of cloud cover last night, so sometimes it's hard to pick up where some of that heat was coming off of the fire. But if we do look at it, you get a general idea of where there's been some growth, most of it being towards the northeast and the eastern section of that fire. Now, where it's good to see that we haven't had much recent growth recently is around Forest Hill. They have completed a lot of dozer lines in that area. And then this section of the fire where we have a lot of structures, that was a big concern for us, but as I'll show in a minute, that's actually one of the places that we've gained a lot of containment on this fire. Now, one thing we can also do is just go through the series of days to see how this has grown, and that'll just kind of put it into perspective of how the behavior has certainly calmed down over the last few days. So this was the first day of data. This fire started on September 7th. Then it grew a large amount between that and the data we had on September 9th, then to September 10th, another active day there, to September 11th, and then to today. So you notice the acceleration of the growth of this fire seems to be slowing down, and a large part of that is all that moisture that we picked up from Hurricane K. Now, when it comes to that 10% containment, we can actually see where it is if we look at the fire perimeter right here, where you see the red line, that's where the fire is uncontained, where you see the black line is where we have containment. Notice that little sliver on the northern end right there, and around this western pocket, some containment on the southern edge as well. Now, when it comes to this pocket right here, great to see that we're getting some containment there because that was an area of the fire that was previously active, and when we turn on structures, you notice most of the structures around this fire are on the western side. So good to see that we're making some good progress in those areas. Then one other thing I'll point out here, the fire got closest to the largest amount of structures when it was pushing towards Forest Hill, but all of those little black X lines represent where we've completed a large amount of dozer lines in that area. So looking pretty good there. And then when we look at where the fire is actually active right now, that's also where there's some good news as well. It's active on the side that's farthest away from the largest amount of structures. Now, with that being said, on the Mosquito Fire, we do still have a large amount of evacuation orders and warnings. So for all that information, you can click some of the links in the description. And if you go to the Inciweb one, it'll take you to a map that looks like this, where if you are a local, that's some very important information to kind of stay up to date with. So that all kind of brings us up to speed with the information that's happened since my last report. Now what we can try to do is actually figure out how much activity is going on the Mosquito Fire as of right now. And if you watched my video this morning, the little wildfire insider video where we're just kind of diving into wildfire across California, looking at all kinds of different factors, the big question mark that we had throughout the day today was, how is the fire going to interact with thunderstorms? Because we knew these thunderstorms that you see popping off in the Sierra were going to happen this afternoon. But the big question mark is if it would be good or bad for our fire. It can be bad if it brings some gusty winds and some lightning starting new fires. It's good if it brings some rainfall and some cloud cover, just bringing in some moisture to the fire and calming conditions that way. So just based on this, can't really see what's going on with the fire because it's getting blocked by all this cloud cover here. So what else we can try to do is actually see if in the general area, if we seem to be getting some of those thunderstorms. We zoom in here. Right there is where you see Forest Hill. That's that northwestern section of the fire we were just talking about. And it looks like they picked up some light rain today, and we've just had that light rain moving through this area consistently since I was actually talking about it this morning. So I'd say as of right now, given that kind of information, it seems like some of the early indications show that the thunderstorm activity over this fire has been a good thing, although we'll have to check at the recent weather observations to see if we've gotten any exceptionally gusty winds as those thunderstorms came through. Another thing that we can do is actually look at it from the ground. This is a time lapse of the last 3 hours. Notice all those clouds moving overhead. Again, that's still moisture left over from Hurricane K. And I notice as we get into the afternoon, you do start to see that fire activity increasing a little bit, and especially in the last hour. So even though I'm doing this update right now, I'm most likely going to continue to do more updates on Twitter, where I won't have as much time to do a full video, but if situations change, and especially if they get worse, I'll continue to do little updates on Twitter so that we all stay informed. But right there, I mean, it's picked up in activity this afternoon, but it's nowhere near the activity that we saw a few days ago when we were in the triple digits with relative humidity in the low teens, and we had that giant smoke plume. We're looking a lot better than that. So overall, pretty moderate behavior as of right now. That's not only because of all the moisture that has been moving into this area, calming down that fire activity, but it's also because of the over 2,000 personnel that we have on this fire right now. So looking at the weather, actually before we look at the weather, let's just look at where we see some activity on this fire. Disclaimer on this map, the little stars that you see here show where there's fire activity on the Mosquito Fire. But the disclaimer is we've had so many clouds throughout the day today that the satellites might not actually even be able to break through those clouds to pick up the heat signatures. So we might be a little blind as to the actual activity going on the Mosquito Fire as of right now. But the latest information that we have does show that eastern side is the more active side. And as I was saying earlier, if we turn on structures, most of the structures are to the west of the Mosquito Fire. So if you had to pick a side of the fire to be active, you probably would pick that eastern side. And then another reason that we're seeing that activity on the eastern side is because our predominant wind direction on this fire has been from the southwest. So that's been continually pushing that fire towards the northeast. Now, if we look at fire history, we do have a little help from the American burn scar up here from 2013. Looks like we have the 2020 Point Fire to the east, but then we do have this large chunk where it still does look like we have some activity on the Mosquito Fire and fuels that haven't burnt in a really long time. So just given that information, I would say if we're forecasting any further growth on this, I would say it'd be towards the northeast, as that predominant wind direction looks to be staying the same. Now that's some good news for Forest Hill, areas like Georgetown or anything west of this fire. Haven't seen a whole lot of growth there recently, and I honestly am not seeing any real chances for growth as we go forward. Now, main reason I say that is because when we look at the fire weather forecast, this whole next week looks to be below average temperatures, which means it won't be as hot, it won't be as dry, especially not compared to that heat wave. And then even 6 to 10 days out, looks like California is going to be below average temperatures. Now, what we can do right now, though, is look at Forest Hill to see what kind of conditions we've actually had throughout the day today. Looks like our high temperature got up to 80 degrees. It's at that as of right now, but relative humidity 35%. So that's pretty good right there. That tells you that all of this moisture that we're getting is actually helping us. Although shows 24-hour precip not picking up anything right there. So although it looks like we had some thunderstorms that moved through, very light rainfall, if any, falling over this area as of right now. Now, the key thing that I was worried about was if we were going to get some gusty winds with that thunderstorm activity. But right there, it looks like the gustiest winds we've had today were about 8 or 6 miles per hour. Now, I don't know if that's just this station, but overall, that's some pretty good news right there. Now, something else we could do just to kind of back up what we're seeing right there, let's click another one of these weather stations and see if it's relatively similar results, because we don't want to just, sometimes those weather stations can be off. Now right there, 76 degrees, not all that warm today. Relative humidity, once again, showing it's in the 30s, which is great compared to the low teens that we had in the past. And the reason relative humidity, along with winds, are the most important variables is because the drier and the windier it is, just the easier it is for that fire to move forward. Here's where some of that good news comes in. We had some winds picking up around 10-30, some gusts around 11 miles per hour. Right now it looks to be gusting around 9 miles per hour. This one's not showing any precipitation either. So really not seeing the negative impacts from those thunderstorms. We're really just getting the positive impacts from that increase in relative humidity. So I think that answers the main question that we were wondering this morning of whether thunderstorms would be a good or bad thing for the mosquito fire. Now, with that being said, I'm only as good as the information that I have at hand, so there could be some other reports out there that I will try to find, and if you know of anything that says there has been some big increases in activity, please let me know in the comments, and I'll be able to correct myself in future videos or on Twitter. But as of right now, all the indications that I'm looking at looks like things are looking a lot better on the mosquito fire. Now, I expect that to continue as we get into tonight. If we fast forward to about 2 a.m., relative humidity right where the mosquito fire is expected to go up to the mid-70s. So in some nights in the past, that's actually been a bad thing because they weren't able to do their firing operations because there was so much moisture in the air that they couldn't put fire on the ground to clear out some of those fuels. But in the good side of things, that's clearing things, that's going to reduce fire behavior substantially, and then we'll be off to a better start tomorrow morning as things start to clear and warm up tomorrow afternoon. So just to see how warm we are expected to get tomorrow afternoon, humidity just around mid-30s once again, so some of that moisture sticking around, although it looks like most of the thunderstorm activity is going to be moving into Nevada. And then temperature-wise, mid-70s, and it looks like we're going to be below average throughout much of California over this entire next week. So when you compare what's going on right now and the overall forecast for California, I would say things are looking up, things are looking cooler with more moisture, and especially not as bad as that heat wave that we just went through. So I hope that this video was helpful. I'm about to record a 2-minute version of this video that's going to be a lot more concise, so you can just watch that if you want the quick details. And then I'm also going to just be doing posts on Twitter throughout the rest of the night, just keeping you guys updated on any changes to the mosquito fire or any other wildfires that might be popping up over California, especially if we do get some lightning from some of this thunderstorm activity in the Sierra. So for all that, you can either subscribe here at Holt Hanley Wildfire Forecasting on YouTube, or you can go to Holt Hanley Wildfire Forecasting on Twitter and follow me there as well. So hope this was helpful. I'll see you all tomorrow for the Wildfire Insiders chat tomorrow morning, and hope you all have a great day and enjoy some of this nice cloud cover that we have over us right now. So hope this was helpful, and thanks for watching.